Well, by way of introduction, I'm Joshua Montgomery. I'm the co-owner of Wicked Broadband here in Lawrence, Kansas. We're one of the oldest and most established mesh networks in the United States. We provide service to thousands and thousands of residents here in the city of Lawrence. And we're really excited to have everybody here today so that we can talk about our new initiative, Wicked Fiber, providing 1 gigabit per second of internet service to Lawrence, Kansas. Today I'm going to talk about the internet and how it's increasingly important to our day-to-day lives. Many of you in this room are on the internet right now using your cell phones and online devices to communicate with Twitter and Facebook. I'm going to talk about how internet access is an economic driver, how it's important to communities to have quality high-speed service, and how that affects the local economy. And I'm going to talk about how Lawrence has fallen behind other communities. Then I'm going to talk about Wicked Fiber. Wicked Fiber is the solution that we're bringing to Lawrence to solve a lot of the problems that I'm going to discuss. I'm going to talk about the service and what we're providing. I'm going to talk about the infrastructure and what we'll be installing in the neighborhoods here in Lawrence. And I'm going to talk about the various service plans we're offering for Lawrence, both for internet and for television. And finally, I'm going to talk about the neighborhood pre-registration contest, where citizens of Lawrence can pre-register for service on Wicked Fiber, and we'll be bringing service to the neighborhood with the most registrations here this year. So let me get started. Internet access is increasingly important. It's become a part of our daily life. Everybody nowadays walks around with what's essentially a computer with a camera and a keyboard and speakers and all of the things that you had on your desktop in 1995, all packed in a little device about yay big. And we use that technology to communicate in new and novel ways. Things like Facebook have revolutionized how people experience the world and how people engage in politics. Twitter is now a news source for thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans. When a news story breaks, the first place I see it isn't in the Washington Post, and it's not on the LJ World mostly. Usually I see it on Twitter. And streaming video and mobile access have changed our lives and how we access television, radio, and other media content. 10, 15 years ago, nobody really anticipated the changes that broadband would bring to the world. You know, broadband access in North Africa and in the Middle East has enabled those folks to declare freedom and throw off the shackles of their oppressors. That's something in 1995 that nobody would have ever predicted. Broadband access has allowed us to build these giant new companies, places like Google, Facebook, Twitter, giant Amazon, giant retailers that are able to provide our day-to-day services in new and novel ways. And without internet service, supply chains stop, schools shut down, banking ceases, and the world goes dark. As a cyber warfare officer for the Kansas Air National Guard, one of the things that we study is the way that the internet affects security and the way that the internet can be used to impact the day-to-day lives of communities. And now that it's been as integrated as it is in our society, the internet is an essential component to the infrastructure in any given community. It's really, truly what makes everything go within the city. It's also an economic driver. New companies have to have high-speed internet access to grow and thrive. The type of companies that are going to dominate the 21st century are companies that are internet-centric. Places like Google, that was just a dream in 1998, is now one of the largest companies, largest publicly traded companies in the United States. Apple Computer, which 30 years ago was making individual little devices, has branched out into multiple different technologies, and they're now providing services. They're now one of the largest companies, if not the largest cap company in the world. And the technologies of tomorrow are all going to be dependent on the internet. If you're selling a widget, you no longer sell that widget door to door. You no longer have to build supply chain relationships in the way that you used to have to do that. From now until the end of time, probably, networks will be used to build new and novel companies. Another key component is job searches and finding jobs and engaging in jobs. I can't hire anybody at my business that doesn't have good skills and high-quality talents for accessing the internet. And a vast majority of jobs out there now today are the same way. Another key component is the infrastructure component of this. And you know, in communities all over the United States that have slow internet access and don't necessarily have the types of services that are provided by, for instance, Google in Kansas City or in the country of South Korea, 100 megabits per second all through the community. Those places aren't able to develop the types of companies that are going to lead in the 21st century. And so companies are being built in places like Silicon Valley and Silicon Alley, and they're not being built in places like Lawrence, Kansas, and Topeka, Kansas. A really great example of that is the Keyhole satellite system, which later became Google Maps. That system and the technologies behind it were developed right here in Lawrence, Kansas. They were developed at Meadowbrook Apartment Complex, right there at 15th and Iowa. And he took those technologies, he took them to Silicon Valley. He developed a large business. That business was later sold to Google. And all of that intellectual capital fled Lawrence for another community because they were where things were happening. They were where the internet access was available, and they were where these giant networks were being built. Another interesting item that I did want to bring up is that Kansas City, Kansas recently had their credit rating upgraded. Their bonds are now rated higher than they were before. And one of the items that was brought up in that report was the fact that Google was bringing fiber into their community, and that boded well for Kansas City, Kansas's future in terms of economic development. Lawrence has fallen behind other communities, even in the state of Kansas. Gardner, McPherson, Great Bend, Winfield, and this is the one that rubs me the wrong way, Manhattan, are all ahead of Lawrence when it comes to providing high-speed internet access. Lawrence is 19th in the state for providing internet access, and you can see as, this is a 2-year chart, you can see as our local incumbent cable provider has been sold, how drastically the internet service has been affected just here in the last several months. The other thing that's really important, and the other thing I wanted to bring up about Lawrence, is that we're now right next door to the fastest networks in the United States. And so what that means is that growing companies that are looking at Kansas as places to build their facilities, build their offices, and build their infrastructures, when they're given a choice between Olathe and Lawrence, and in Olathe, people can still live in Lawrence and drive to Olathe, they're going to pick Olathe because Olathe is the place where all of this technology is being built. It's the place where Google is building this cutting-edge network and where they can get the skills and the technologies that they need to be growing companies. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our solution to that problem. If we're going to build a fiber network here in Lawrence, we're going to have to build it ourselves. One thing that really stands out to me about the Google announcement that they're bringing service to Austin, Texas, is that Austin, Texas is a university town. And if Google was going to test their network in a university town, geographically the place that made sense to do that was Lawrence, Kansas. So by going to Austin, and through the fact that nobody in Lawrence has heard anything from Google about building a network here in town, it looks to me at least like Google's going to bypass Lawrence and that network's going to be built elsewhere. So if we're going to build a network, we need to build it ourselves. We're going to build it to provide 1,000 megabits per second. And to put that in perspective, that's 100 times faster than the average connection in the United States. The average American family has an internet connection that's 5.8 megabits per second down and about 1 megabit per second up. And what that means, what the 1,000 times faster means, is that you'll be able to upload video, download video, interact with other people, have multiple devices online at the same time, and engage in commerce and communication in ways that you've never been able to in the past. One of the key components, or one of the key enablers of this technology, is that it's symmetric. And what that means is that when you pull internet information down from the internet, you're able to do that at the exact same speed as you're able to push it up to the internet. And why that's important, I'm going to put up a really great example. You know, you saw this great video at the beginning of this presentation. Chris here, who's operating the cameras, put that together for us right here in town. And he had that video completed with its last cut at 11 o'clock last night, and was getting prepared to push it up for our consumption so we could get everything going. Well, he hit upload at his house, and I got an email at 3:30 this morning saying that the video was finally uploaded to the internet. At our offices, where we've got a gigabit connection, I was able to pull that video down in about 45 seconds. And so Chris, as an individual who runs his own business that engages in video production and engages in high bandwidth applications, can make a lot of use of the fiber network that we're building in order to enable his business and keep his customers from shaking and shivering that their video is not going to be produced when it's showing up at 3 a.m. the day of the presentation. One of the other things we're going to do is we're going to deploy community wireless internet access. And this is something new that we're doing here in Lawrence that's not being done in other communities that are doing gigabit fiber. And finally, we're going to provide disruptive pricing. We're pricing this product in a way that everybody in the community can afford it, and everybody in the community can use it to access the internet. The service that we're providing is being provided by a fiber optic cable, and for those of you who've never seen a fiber optic cable, this is a fiber optic cable. This is a 12-count cable, and what it is a plastic jacket around a fiberglass sleeve that's then surrounded by a bunch of fiber buffer tubes that's then got a solid fiberglass core. And when we install it, we take all of that protection and we bury it in a piece of conduit 3 feet underground. So fiber optic cable is not only very, very fast, it's also very, very reliable and very, very difficult to damage. We're going to be providing services to residents, and unlike other communities that are doing gigabit broadband, we're also providing services for businesses here in town and multifamily apartment complexes. Members will be able to access the service through a simple Ethernet wall port, and there's an example of that on the table in the back, and we'll show some pictures a little bit later. There's no special equipment required. You don't need a special router, you don't need a special technology, you don't need, we're not trying to lever a technology from the 20th century or technology from the 19th century in the case of the phone service to provide broadband services. We're providing that with a simple Ethernet port the same way that you consume internet at your office. And we're also going to be deploying an emergency communications system simultaneous to installing the fiber network. Installing the fiber, what I've discovered in over the years with internet access and building internet networks is the first step to any internet project, whether it's wireless or wired or fiber, is you dig a hole in the ground. And so we're going to be using horizontal trenching equipment to pull a piece of conduit underground. The conduit will be attached to handholds that are located throughout the community. And inside that hole is a case where the fiber is connected to other fibers. And then we'll pull a piece of fiber optic cable just like this to each and every property that is pre-registered for our service. Once we've reached the home, we terminate the fiber in a galvanized metal box on the back of the property, and there's an example of that also on the back table that you can look on it. It's a galvanized, rain-tight enclosure. It keeps the equipment safe from damage, and that is important when we're talking about emergency communications. And we're going to install an optical networking terminal. So an ONT is what that's called in geek lingo. The ONT provides expansion capacity for other carriers, and I can't highlight this enough. Currently, we're going to be using 2 fibers, so one right here and one right here, for our Wicked Fiber project. We're also installing an additional 2 fibers, expansion 1 and expansion 2, that can be used for other carriers to provide service here in the city of Lawrence. So we're building 4 fiber networks all at the same time. And what that means is that if Google or another company ever decides to come to Lawrence, the infrastructure is already in the ground, it's already ready to go. All they need to do is connect their electronics, and they can have a service operating right here in Lawrence, Kansas. And what that means is that there'll be competition in the marketplace, and competition is always good for subscribers to broadband systems. Finally, we install the electronics component inside that box. The electronics component consists of a fiber transceiver, which is right here, and once again there's an example of this on the back table. A power over Ethernet adapter that takes power from inside the house and makes it available for the equipment. Interestingly enough, that also has a solar port on it, so families that want to use solar power to power their broadband in order to be green or in order to conserve energy can do that. It has a 5-port managed switch and a 5-amp-hour battery backup. And what that means is that if power goes out in the neighborhood, if there's a giant storm or, God forbid, a tornado hits Lawrence, all of these ONTs that are in steel boxes strapped to the back of these properties will continue to operate even though there might be substantial emergencies occurring within the community. In order to facilitate access to that emergency communications, we're going to be installing a wireless access point at each and every home. And that wireless access point is controlled by us. And it has 4 SSIDs available. One of the things it does is provide communications during power outages. So if you're a member and you're using our Wicked Fiber product and the power goes out at your house and you don't have a UPS for your computer or anything else, you can boot your laptop on its battery, you can boot your cell phone on its battery, you can access the wireless access point on the outside of your home or on any other home that's subscribed to Wicked Fiber and use that to communicate with other people. It allows the members of our network to roam. And so you can walk down the street and you might start by connecting to the one at your house, but as you walk down the street, your cellular phone will connect to whichever access point is available and continue to make service available without digging into your cellular data plan. And finally, one of the key components here is that we can provide community access. And so the wireless network, much like wireless networks at airports and our current wireless network, is for paying subscribers. But on the customer side of the paywall, without having an account, we can make resources available to the community that they don't have to pay for. So if the public library wants to make ebooks available and wants you to be able to check out books through the network, your website can be made available to the community without having to pay for it. The same with the LJ World. If the newspaper wants to make their newspaper available throughout the community and distribute that free of charge, they can go ahead and do that by putting their newspaper on the outside of the paywall. The city and the county can also, and the school system, can also make use of that to provide communications to their websites, to various resources, to mapping resources, and of course for students to get access to school resources so that they can get files, put up presentations, do their assignments. You know, one of the things that's also happened as this whole internet has expanded out into the communities is that education has become more and more net-centric. And so this community access gives us the opportunity to make the network available to everyone in the community, regardless of income and regardless of whether or not you have a paying account with the service. Finally, we install a wall port in the outside of your house. This is really important. You don't have to have a modem, and you don't have to have some kind of special device that switches from Ethernet to DOCSIS in cables lingo, or from Ethernet to ADSL in the telephone lingo. You know, the technology that we're building in these households is 21st century technology, and so you can plug it right into your computer. And because we're using 21st century technology and we're not trying to put broadband on a copper fiber line that was installed in 1895, and we're not trying to run it through a cable line that was installed back in the 1960s, we're able to deliver services that are 1,000 megabits, and if we upgrade the electronics over time, scientists are now pushing 102 terabits per second through a single fiber. And so as the technology continues to mature, we'll be able to bring those speeds into individual homes at a pretty low cost. Most of the cost of what we're doing is putting the fiber in the ground. It's the inert plastic that we're putting in the ground and digging the holes all over the community that is where all the cost is. The actual transceiver on the outside of the house and the actual little SFP that we use back at the tower site, those only cost $30. And so as that technology improves, it makes it possible for us to upgrade service to the entire community at a very, very low cost. Another thing that we're encouraging people to do is connect their devices through a router. And so we've selected the a Netgear N750 router as our preferred router for the network. That makes your internet connection available not only to one computer plugged into the wall, but it makes it available to all of the computers and the printers and the phones and the tablets and the set-top boxes in your home. And in that router's case, it'll do that at 750 megabits per second. And so you'll be able to bring that gigabit connection into your home and share it amongst your devices and make it available to your kids and make it available to your husband and make it available to your dog when your dog gets a Wi-Fi enabled collar so that you can track them at the house. The other thing that we're providing is power line networking, and there's some examples of those devices in the back. The power line networking allows you to send the network information through the copper lines that provide electricity in your home. And what that means is if you have a movie room in your basement, and a lot of people do, and you have your Xbox in your movie room and you want to be able to game down there, you can take one of these little power line adapters and plug it into the wall and provide service to that wired device anywhere within your house. Those can move data at 500 megabits per second, and so when you're playing Call of Duty in your basement, you'll get 1 millisecond ping times and you'll be able to go ahead and play head-to-head with all of your friends and beat them because your internet connection is faster.
Yes.
The final thing that we do that no other ISP that I'm aware of does, and I have several customers in this room that can speak to this, is that we monitor our equipment for every single family home that is connected directly to our tower sites and for every home that is connected to our fiber network. And what that means is that when your internet breaks, it flags in our system. And what my technicians in the back, Dan and Lionel, who a lot of people have probably spoken to, what they do all day long is they monitor that system, and if Eric, your service goes down at your house, you will get a phone call, probably within a few hours, maybe within definitely within 24 hours, from one of our technicians saying, hey, is there a problem at your house that we can send a technician out to fix it? And we're able to provide that level of service to everyone who subscribes for our network. And we do that because when we built out our wireless system, we were trying to build a reliable network on an inherently unreliable medium. And so we have very little control over whether somebody turns on a wireless device that interferes with our system, whether somebody has a broken microwave that nukes traffic for houses in every single direction. We don't have control over the medium itself. And so as we were building our internet service provider, we had to put in place tools that would allow us to make those connections reliable enough to compete with more reliable technologies. Well, the cool thing about putting fiber into these neighborhoods is we now have a reliable medium. And what that means is that as we put everybody in monitoring and as we get better and better and better at what we do, we'll be able to reach out to our customers when they have problems, a lot of times before they even know they have a problem, and say, hey, how can we help you? How can we get a technician to your site? So here is a complete installation that we've just completed over on Stratford Road. You can see the fiber optic cable coming in the top here. In this case, we flew it in. In most houses, we're going to bury that going forward. There's a managed wireless network on the back of the home that provides service in the event of an emergency. We've got our electronics in a locked steel enclosure on the back of the property. And then right here, you can see the wires running down into the house, going to a wall plate. This is a 100 megabit wall plate. For 100 megabit service, there's one port. For gigabit service, there's actually two, one for power and one for internet access. And one of the things that we're really excited about, and one of the things that we learned by going down to Joplin and volunteering 2 years ago, was exactly how much damage an F5 tornado does rolling through a community. And so when I was developing this system and when I was designing this network, and we were looking at the various different cheap plastic enclosures that were being provided by the various vendors, we made the decision to put everything in a galvanized steel box. We made a decision going forward to put all of the fiber underground, specifically because in an event like that, not every box is going to survive. 1 in 4, maybe 1 in 5, based on what we saw in Joplin. But you'll still have some form of communications, even though all the cell towers have been blown down and all the houses are destroyed and all of the infrastructure has been torn up. Hopefully, we can continue to provide some level of network connectivity so that people can page their friends and say, hey, I'm okay, or hey, I'm stuck in the house. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our service plans. And when I say disruptive pricing, I mean disruptive pricing. You may or may not have noticed, but the incumbent cable provider has eliminated their top-tier product as of today. It's not on their website. I don't know, it might come back. But they no longer have a gold product that used to be delivering 50 megabits per second. So the fastest internet you can currently subscribe to here in Lawrence, Kansas, as far as I know, is 20 megabits per second from any of the incumbent providers. What we're providing for residential fiber customers is a full gigabit, 1,000 megabits per second for $99.98 a month. We're providing a second tier service that we're calling Tin Band that runs at 100 megabits per second. And for most people, 100 megabits per second is the line speed of your existing wireless router. And so without upgrading your equipment, you probably can't go beyond 100 megabits per second anyway. And so for customers where 100 megabits is enough, and we anticipate a lot of customers are going to be in that category, we're providing a service that we're calling Tin Band for $69.98. And then for customers who are just getting started or customers who are cost conscious, we're providing a 20 megabit per second full duplex connection. That means up and down for $49.98 a month. And that's very competitive with the rates that other providers are charging when you factor in all their hidden fees and their modem rentals and everything else that they tack on. Also, and this is new to Lawrence and new to these gigabit fiber projects that are going out, we're providing business fiber in our community. The business fiber product that we're providing is $59.98 per committed megabit per second per month. And so that's going to take a little bit of explaining. So for business customers, we want them to have 100% reliable service and 100% reliable capacity because their incomes and their mortgage payments depend on having rock solid, reliable internet access. And so what we're doing is we're committing to businesses that you will always, for $59, get 1 megabit per second for every $59 you spend. Okay? In addition to that, we're throwing in for free 9 megabits of best effort. And what best effort means is that when that capacity is available on the network, you're going to get it. And I have several business customers in the audience right now. You can talk to them. Most of them have never gotten below what they've been promised, and a vast majority of them are getting significantly in excess of the 9 megabits per second we're promising for the business customer. And what that means is that For instance, if you want to put a 100 meg link in your business because you're upgrading and you want to do new services, maybe broadcast video, you would buy 10 megabits from us on a committed service, so it would be $590 a month, which is a very fair price, and that'll go all the way to 100 megabits. We've already had businesses taking advantage of this. Scanning America up here in North Lawrence has a really different way of using the internet than most people do. So what Scanning America does is they take analog information, paper, and they scan it and turn it into digital information, and then they push it to the internet for their customers to get access to. And so through their incumbent provider, they were constantly having to spend days and days and days uploading documents to the various websites that they're using to distribute them to their customers. When we installed fiber, they got a 50 meg link, so they bought 5 megabits and it goes all the way to 50, and immediately they began moving, I don't know how much traffic, a ridiculous amount of traffic. And it's exactly the reverse of the profile we see at Triangle Fraternity or some of our other Greek customers where they're consuming. They were pushing huge amounts of data and consuming very little. And that's an example of where this new technology can enable a business to do things that they haven't been able to do in the past with the existing technologies that are being provided. We're also providing service for bulk customers, and that means apartment complexes and multifamily dwelling units. University customers, if student housing wants to come in and participate in the project, and for the Greek system. If those folks want us to put 1,000 megabits per second in every unit in, for instance, the dormitories, we would be able to do that for a $24 a month $24 a month fee, provided they bought it for the entire system. And to put that in perspective, they're currently using a provider called Apogee that maxes out somewhere around 20, 25 megabits, and the kids are paying over $30 each for that, and they have no other choices for internet service. We can do the same for Greek systems, and if you own an apartment complex and are interested in providing internet as an amenity to your tenants, we can do that for you too at either 1,000 megabit or at 100 megabits per second. And the Tin Man product, the 100 megabit per second product, we're currently providing it to more than half the Greek system. We just crossed that this week. Just this week, we added 75 girls at Delta Gamma that installs Friday. Dan was up until 11 p.m. on Saturday night bringing up Sigma Phi Epsilon, which is another 75 guys. And we've also signed a contract with, or we will sign a contract with Delta Chi sometime in the next day or so. That's in the mail and everything's squared away with that. We also have another opportunity this week, and I think we're going to sign that one too. So 4 fraternities and sororities in 1 week. That means that we're bringing up almost 300 new subscribers onto the network just in the next 7 days. In terms of construction fees, putting the fiber optic cable in the ground, building all this infrastructure, putting in all those boxes, terminating it, splicing it, designing it, is a very, very expensive enterprise. And so to recover the costs of pulling that infrastructure to individuals' homes, we either need the individual homeowner to make a commitment to buy service from us for a certain period of time, or we need them to provide part of the payment for installing that fiber optic cable. And it's way in excess of $300, just so you know. So consumers who are willing to go with us for 2 years and are willing to make a commitment to use the service for that period of time, the construction cost is free. And that includes all 3 levels of service. So if all you want is 20 megabits per second for 2 years and pay $50 a month, we'll put that fiber optic cable in your home as we build out your neighborhood. Folks who only want to make a 1-year commitment, who might not be in Lawrence for more than 12 months, it's $149. And because we're a university town, we also have a 10-month program, so you can subscribe from August to May and get $100 off of the construction fee. Anybody who wants to make no commitment, for instance, if you're a landlord and you want to make this available for your tenants, or if you're afraid of commitment, you can pay a $300 one-time fee and we'll install that service to your home. And it's important for me to point out that this is just the construction fee. So once that's built to your house and everything's installed and we're ready to go, if you move out or if it's an apartment and they're changing tenants on and off, they don't pay that fee a second time. In that case, it's $50 to activate your account. We'll come out, install the electronics, and do the training, and you're up and online. And that's very competitive with what other providers are charging for turning on new service. Finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about our television product, and I'm excited to say today that we are now going to be working with our customers to be able to provide a high-quality television product. And we're going to be doing that in a new and novel way, and we're going to be encouraging our customers to cut the cord to the cable company and to end their subscription television service. Okay? And what that means is we're not going to collect a check from you. We're not going to be your TV provider. What my company does and what my team does is we move ones and zeros from your house to the internet for a daily, weekly, monthly, or annual fee. That's it. That's all we do. So if you want a television package, we'll work with you to find a subscription package that meets your needs, or you can subscribe directly with various different providers and buy your TV from them. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this wasn't possible. Heck, even a year ago, this wasn't possible. But nowadays, it is possible using very inexpensive off-the-shelf equipment like this Roku set-top box. And I don't know how they call it a set-top box. It's the size of a credit card. It's got wireless connectivity and wired connectivity. It does full 1080p HD TV. It has hundreds and hundreds of channels available, and it costs $100. So I'm going to demonstrate that here a little bit. I have this one connected to Netflix. It connects through the network. And I have a subscription with Netflix that costs me $7.99 a month, and I can stream as much content as I want. And you can see that it is plenty easy for my daughters to use the Netflix account. They make extensive use of that on a day-to-day basis, watching cartoons and other items, and they're able to do that unsupervised. The interface is that simple, and there are parental controls that control what they have access to. And all they do is select what they want to watch. So let's select Curious George, and away they go. It reaches out to the network and retrieves that content. And interestingly enough, let's mute that. Interestingly enough, it's commercial free. And so my daughters, because we listen to NPR in the car, and because we run AdBlock Plus on our web browser, and because they watch any television they watch through the Roku streaming media player, they have no idea what a commercial is. And so when they go to Grandma and Grandpa's house and they're watching TV and their show gets interrupted, they just kind of look around and they're like, why is this guy interrupting my show? And I don't want any Doritos, and I wanted to know what George was doing next. And they freak out. And so being able...
That is the only time they want Doritos.
My wife works with healthy eating. So you have a subscription and you have a relationship directly with Netflix, and that costs you $7 a month. And you can watch any of tens of thousands of movies, television shows, individual series. They're now producing original content, so they've got this great new series with Kevin Spacey in it. And you're able to do all that for $8. The same thing with Hulu. And the same thing increasingly for sports packages. And so you can watch any NHL game anywhere in the United States, and the annual subscription is $50. The same thing with NBA, the same thing with baseball, the same thing with Major League Soccer. You can watch any game you want to watch, anytime you want to watch it, on demand, without commercial interruptions, in HD on your TV. The reason I think that people haven't adopted this across the board now is because there are bandwidth caps and overage fees. And if you're watching TV at your home and you're moving gigs and gigs and gigs of traffic through your internet connection, you're going to end up paying the incumbent provider for that traffic, even though your relationship is directly with the content provider. And so by providing you with uncapped bandwidth, by providing you with your ones and zeros, what we're doing is enabling you to have a relationship directly with HBO, and you to have a relationship directly with Major League Soccer. And coming this year, you to have a relationship directly with Aereo. Aereo is a service that takes broadcast content out of the air, digitizes it, and makes it available on your Roku set-top box. And what that means is you can watch NBC, ABC, CBS, all of the local channels anywhere in your market on your set-top box, and I think that they're charging $9 for that. And so by picking the various different technologies, the various different channels that you want to watch, by subscribing to them directly instead of through a subscription package, you can save a huge amount of money. And only watch the content you want to watch that content whenever you want to watch it, and watch it all, for the most part, commercial-free. Aereo, obviously, it's broadcast, so there will be whatever commercials are being broadcast. We're also working with our partner here in Lawrence, Blue Sky Satellite, to provide subscription television to folks who are interested in it. Those packages start at $49.99 a month. They have over 100 channels. All of the basic channels that you're going to want to watch on a day-to-day basis are available on that package. And you can also subscribe to premium channels. So if you look at some of the TV packages being provided by other gigabit providers, they don't have things like HBO available. By working directly with Dish Network, we're able to provide all of the content that Dish can provide to our end users, all in HD on multiple televisions throughout their community. You can also subscribe a la carte to subscription television packages like Game Plan, ESPN Full Court, NBA League Pass, adult channels. And because it's Dish, and because Dish has channels from all over the world, if you're interested in Cantonese TV, so let's say the Jade Network, you'll be able to subscribe to that. And in Lawrence, a community that's got a lot of international students in it, that's an important service that we're going to be able to provide directly to our end users. Currently, we're working with Blue Sky also to provide the installation for the end homeowners. And so, for those of you who don't know anything about Blue Sky Satellite, it's a local company. If you call Dish Network to have your service installed anywhere in Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, or Iowa, it's usually a Blue Sky Satellite technician that will come out and install your service. The last time I talked to Matt, they employed north of 150 technicians in those states, and they were doing hundreds and hundreds of installations every single day. They're based here, right here in Lawrence at 19th and Delaware. They're kind of a low-profile organization, but they're able to provide very, very high-quality installations, and we'll be doing probably the electronics component of our fiber installation along with the television portion of our installation, presuming that Matt and I can finalize the agreement and get that rolling. So we're excited to be using local technicians to provide that service. So now comes the question, how can I get fiber optic internet access and all this great television programming at my home today? Some homes do have it today. We have been installing service up on Oxford and near Highland Drive, where the fraternities and sororities are located. We have a lot of fraternities and sororities online now. But to bring this service to the rest of the community, we want the community to show us that there's demand for the types of products that we're providing. And so we're allowing members of the community to pre-register for service so that when we build the fiber optic system in their neighborhood, they can get hooked up on the first day. And that pre-registration started today at 1:55 p.m. So the website is up and running. Folks can go to that. That's at wickedfiber.com. And for $10, they can pre-register for service. That $10 will be credited to their first bill. And that lets us know that there's demand for that product in their neighborhood. The funds will be credited towards their first bill. And because I do have a lot of existing customers in the room, existing customers are going to be hooked up at no charge as we roll through your neighborhood. So if you're already a subscriber with Wicked Broadband, when we pull fiber by your house, we're going to roll it right into your house and hook you up. So anybody who's a customer as of June 15th of this year, so 2 months from now, and is still in good standing at the time we bring fiber into their neighborhood, will receive a free installation at no cost. How we're going to select the neighborhood where we install service first? It's the one with the most pre-registrations. So the various different neighborhoods get to compete, and whichever neighborhood demonstrates to us that they truly, honestly want this system, that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is and spend $10 to pre-register and get excited about the product and the technology that we're bringing to them, that's the neighborhood where we want to put our pilot project. Existing members of the system will get 16 points for their neighborhood if they host a free yard sign. So all they have to do is give us a call or send us an email and say, hey, I want a yard sign. We'll put it in their front yard. They get 16 points for their neighborhood. New members get 10 points by pre-registering. And then if they choose to purchase a yard sign during that registration process, they get an additional 6 points. So you can get 16 points for your neighborhood by pre-registering and hosting a yard sign to let your neighbors know that you're excited about the technology and that you're excited about the service. Pre-registration is going to end June 15th. So we're going to be running it for 2 months. The reason we're doing this announcement today is because we want the students to have an opportunity to register in the last month of school before they take off for the year on May 15th. And only neighborhoods that meet their pre-registration goal are going to get Wicked Fiber. Neighborhoods where there's low demand, neighborhoods that are largely industrial, where people aren't interested in the services, neighborhoods that are very, very rural, aren't going to be able to get service unless they band together and let us know, hey, we want you to bring service into our neighborhood. So in review, I just wanted to highlight exactly how important the internet is. And I, 5 or 6 years ago when I brought this up to the City Commission and I brought it up to the community, there was a lot of doubt that the internet was as important as it's turned out to be. And I guess it's now 8 years. It's now been 8 years. I think that most people would have a problem making an argument to say that the internet's not important. I'm getting Facebook updates from Commissioner Amex that lets me know that the penetration is almost complete.
And tweets.
And tweets.
From Commissioner Amex.
Internet access is an economic driver. Ask Kansas City, Kansas what the Google Fiber project has meant to their bottom line. Ask Austin, Texas what being announced as the next Google community has meant to them. Ask Chattanooga, Tennessee what their gigabit fiber network that they built through the municipality has meant to that community, or Lafayette, Louisiana. You know, Chattanooga, Tennessee installed their own system. They've got 167,000 people in that community. That they had 47,000 addresses subscribed to their fiber service, and they're generating $66 million $66 million annually in revenue. That makes that one of the largest revenue drivers in their community. Lawrence is falling behind the rest of the state. With Google Fiber going in right next door, you know, even Winfield, Kansas has us beat in terms of internet service. And the most important community to beat, and I cannot highlight this enough, is Manhattan, Kansas. If we can't beat Manhattan, Kansas, our solution is Wicked Fiber. The service is going to be provided on a fiber optic cable that's brought to your home and installed in an ONT on the outside. You'll plug into a wall port and get online. You'll be able to subscribe to great service plans from 1,000 megabits to 100 megabits to 20 megabits. And the wireless access point that we're installing on the outside of your home will provide you with service in the event of a power outage, will provide you with the ability to roam throughout the community, and will provide you with service and connectivity in the event that there's a major disaster within the community. Finally, if you want these products, if you want us to bring them to your neighborhood, if you're excited about it, if you want us to go out and spend Larry's money making this project work, then you need to let us know. The neighborhood with the most pre-registrations as of June 15th is going to be the neighborhood that gets this service first. And I should define the neighborhoods. We're using voting precincts to define the neighborhoods. So a lot of the folks in the room are already very familiar with the voting precincts. You know, band together with your neighbors, let them know, hey, we want to bring this service to our neighborhood. We want to be the first ones to subscribe to this service. And we'll move the heavens, the sun, the earth, the moon, and the stars to bring that service to your neighborhood. So,
and we'll bring the monkeys.
And we'll bring the monkeys. I think that's all I have. Thank you very much for coming out today.